Good afternoon, good evening. Hi, everybody. Losing track of time because I always lose track of time when I'm having fun. Welcome to YOLO with ToLo. Today we are going to continue talking about grief. Actually, it's going to be called good grief. That's our theme this week. Let me get Lonell, my co-host, on. Last week, Lonell and I talked about grief, and a lot of you guys shared your crowdsourced wisdom on how you deal with grief and good grief. So many people chimed in. We got some texts afterwards, people saying that they, shed tears. People said that they cried. Hey, Kim. Okay, let me see. Lonell's watching. Let me add you, Lonell. Bring the receiving in. Okay. Hey, Lonell. What's up?
Hello. I feel like I need a facelift. I'm wonderful. How are you guys tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. I was like, I had this most glorious nap today. It was so awesome. I'm glad you woke me up a little while ago. Otherwise, I might have slept through this.
My bad. I'm glad that we did wake you up, though, for our little chat. Dee, our producer, is here taking time for us, and Kevin, our production coordinator, is there. Hey, Kim. How are you?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm wonderful. I'm sorry. I thought you were reading somebody.
No.
I am wonderful. I've been on vacation. It's been glorious. So I'm glad to be home. I didn't go anywhere, but it's coming to an end. Like tomorrow, I'm like flying out again for the first time in 2 weeks. I can't remember the last time I sat in the same city for 2 weeks, but
Right? And I was so blessed to see you, I can't believe it's been like a week and a half.
yeah, and I've been home ever since. Yes, it's been wonderful.
So how has your time been at home? Just doing whole lot of nothing?
Very relaxing. I didn't, like I said, just doing nothing. I mean, getting some stuff done around my house, but for the most part, just chilling out. It's been glorious.
Awesome. Kevin, thank you. Our production coordinator here is adding, hey, Julie, adding my audience on my private Facebook page. Were you able to add yours?
Yep.
And quick question for you guys watching. Is everything flipped around? Like, is it backwards, or do you see everything right on your side? The letters?
I think it looks right.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks right.
Finally, I got it right. Kevin was like, make sure you double check. So everyone, welcome to YOLO with ToLo. I'm Tuan.
And I'm Lonell.
And that's how we get ToLo. But ToLo also means, there's an acronym for it, which means transforming our lives organically through conversation. So thanks for joining us this week. Should we talk about our quick segments before we head on over to talk about what we need to talk about?
Yes, let's fit through that and get into it.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin says that you look good, Tuan. Okay. Thank God I had everything flipped over right, because sometimes before you go live, y'all, you have to click this button that flips everything. Anyway, so our first segment is segment 1, ToLo's Hot Topics. And basically, we only have one today because there's so much to talk about. So you guess what it is. We'll get to that. Anyway, so that's the first topic. First segment. Second segment is called Dump the Hump, where we help you get through your, not just Wednesday, the Wednesday hump, but just challenges in your life. And this is one of my favorite segments. It's called Talk to ToLo, segment 3. It's where, see my little thought bubble? Anyway, that's where we talk to you and answer your questions. And then the fourth one is something that you and I really have to work on.
My least favorite subject, but yes, the one that needs the most work, right?
I know, right? That's why we bury it at the end. But this is the one that also people are always chiming in about too. So that's awesome. So last week we talked about grief because I was in Atlanta. For those of you guys, I don't know if you guys, everybody's been caught up with the last couple episodes, but we did a special live episode 2 episodes ago on a Sunday because I was with Lonell in the same city. And I was doing a speaking engagement for the Asian American Journalists Association, and just about teaching nonprofits on how to tell their story or stories to the media and how to get it picked up. And this woman came up to me and revealed that, she was a caretaker and her mother had passed away recently. And she just looked at me deadpan in the face and said, will I ever feel joy again? And that really touched me because, you know, I am no stranger to grief. For those of you guys that know me or that have been watching, you know, I lost 4 family members in a year's time in 2000 and year 2000. And then my brother-in-law passed away suddenly last year. And then Lionel lost his father. I mean, we just personally, professionally, and spiritually, I think we've all experienced some sort of loss, and it's here to grow us. So last week, there was just so much energy around it. So we were like, this week, let's do part 2 of grief, but we'll call it good grief, on how to grieve and get kind of past that hump, so that grief isn't just making you stagnant and really like pulling you down. And like I mentioned earlier, we got a text from somebody watching, a message from someone that said, you know, I cried watching your episode because I'm, you know, at a crossroads grieving my professional career. So we just decided today to talk about grief. And in today's segment 1, our ToLo's topics, did you guys guess what it was?
I did.
Well, Kevin, our production coordinator, said he shared on his Facebook, and he was like, Roseanne barred from her own show. And I thought that was pretty spiffy headline. But Kevin has news experience as an editor.
Yeah.
Hey, Jennifer. Thanks for chiming in again this week. So yeah, oh my God, I don't know where you've been, if you do not know about the drama that continues to unfold with Roseanne and her tweet, which caused her show to be pulled.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many takeaways. I want to know actually from you first, since you're Mr. Social media influencer, met Oprah on Twitter, became friends with her, met so many of your like soul siblings on Twitter. What do you make of all this? Thoughts?
Well, you know what? Listen, just like anything, tweets have consequences. We live in a country that honors free speech. Okay, that's fine. You can say what you want to say, but there are consequences to what you say. And if this is not a glaring example of be mindful of what you put out there, you just have to think. And then when your platform is as expansive and as powerful and as large as someone like Roseanne, you really have to be extremely careful. Now, we live in this climate, you know, this political climate where, you know, it comes from the top, where you're kind of encouraged to just be ratchet and say the first thing that you feel. And that's fine if you want to, but understand that what you say has consequences. And we're seeing that. Not only did her show get canceled, but it just doesn't just affect her, but all the people that are employed.
That's what I was saying.
And those people were just, those people they had just gotten picked up for a second season. So if you work in production, you know it's very cyclical like that.
Yeah.
And
we both
but when
work
you
in
get a
production.
pickup from a major network, you start banking on those 16 paychecks or however many weeks it's gonna go.
And there was the number one. Yeah, they're one of the number 1 shows, the reboot. Right. Yeah.
You feel comfortable, you're kind of seated there, you're ready to go. And then, you know, she has a Tourette's moment and she just goes off on her Twitter. And
her tweeter.
Yeah, now
or whatever. But
and then here we are. So yeah, you just have to be mindful. Don't tweet the first thing you feel. I have to do that myself because sometimes, especially when I'm trolling the president, and I just had to unfollow him so I would stop doing it. But you have to sometimes you just got to take a breath beforehand. Yeah. Don't just tweet the first thing or post the first thing that you feel. Yeah. Because sometimes you're just caught up in the emotion of it all. And that's just in life in general. You don't react on the first thing that you feel.
Yeah, with everything. Yeah. Somebody cuts you off, somebody cusses at you. We always talk about going back to the present moment, getting grounded, taking a deep breath before you do anything. And even when I get in arguments with people, it's just like, I'm like, okay, well, let me take a deep breath before I just like go off the handle. You know, Kevin says, or chase likes and retweets. True that. Kevin's always getting on me.
They want the
always check your sources before you retweet or reshare on Facebook. Kevin has taught me that as a former online editor. And like Valerie, the woman that Roseanne attacked, she said, let this be a teachable moment. And really, whatever political side you are in life, whatever left or right or whatever side you're on in any argument, I think it's really important that we be mindful of our words, because words have power. They are they have a magic, and they can uplift and gift, like our conversations hopefully do, or they can like suppress and really like, you know,
or divide, like our president does. I said it.
I know, right? So you just have to be mindful that there are consequences. And you know this and I know this, but I don't care if you Snapchatting young people or whatever you're doing, those things don't disappear. Your Instagram stories, people can save them, people can take a snapshot of them, and they can be shared and they will come back and haunt you. Before you share anything publicly, just be mindful. And also, we always talk about be impeccable with your word. The Four Agreements, that book, one of my favorite books, the author talks about be impeccable with your word. And not just what you broadcast to the world, but inside what you tell yourself. If you tell yourself, oh, I'm never going to make money doing that, or I'll never find love, guess what? You just wrote your own chapter.
Right, because you will have what you say.
Yeah, and I think overall with this whole debate, there's been so much fallout on both sides. The president has chimed in. Obviously, ABC news execs, regular trolls, people on for or against Roseanne. And I think it just comes down to this, that, with the recent administration, I know a lot of people personally that have cut ties with anybody that voted for Trump or anybody on the other side. And, I know people, there's somebody in my family, and there's also other friends, some friends that I do have that voted for Trump, and I did not vote for Trump. But they just said, I'm going to delete them, or I don't want to talk to them. And for me, it's just there's no peace, there's no understanding without trying to build a bridge and trying to understand. Denise says, what do you think about her claim that she was joking? And then Denise, I love Denise.
She very well may have been, but she's got a history of this kind of foolishness.
They knew, ABC knew, you must know.
They knew.
Yes. You know that there's something that's going to be blasphemous or something crazy that she's going to say. So I don't know. Personally, I like Ambien. She said she was on Ambien and it made her, kind of woozy or whatever. And I love Ambien's response on a Twitter response.
They were like, racism is not a side effect of Ambien. There may be many side effects. But just that whole cultural insensitivity, that type of ignorance, or that you would take the liberty to say something just so egregious, there are just consequences to that. So whether you're joking or not, there's just a price. You can joke, that can be your joke, but there is a price to pay when your platform is that visible, or even if it's not that visible. But there's always a price to pay for what you say. So, I will applaud her, because I think she said something about for people to stop defending her because what she did was wrong. Yeah, because now all your papers messed up, Yeah. But Disney is, ABC, Disney, they are very protective of their brand.
Yep.
Disney has built an entire empire on inclusion. So if you're going to be a part of that, if you're going to be a tentacle or a branch of that tree, you've got to uphold their values. So they are, of course, they're going to just and I think ABC did the right thing. They really had no choice. Can you imagine Disney trying to mitigate that today?
Yeah.
If they weren't on top of it right away, then it'd be no. Then next thing you know, Mickey Mouse is a racist, and they're not gonna, no one's gonna have that.
I'm like, don't ruin it for me. Do not ruin it for me. Mickey Mouse is not a racist. But a bottom line.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. People would be saying that if ABC, if Disney didn't act swiftly and immediately. So kudos to them. But they had to do that, of course, because they're not going to tarnish that. That brand is iconic. Yeah. So they're very sensitive, as they should be, because they have built an entire empire on inclusion.
And it does say a lot, though, about this brand, right? That they're going to lose millions and millions of dollars on this, one of their popular reboots, right? For them to take a stand. And I applaud them for taking a stand. I mean, either way, you got to take your stand and you got to stick to it. And bottom line, for me, this whole takeaway is be careful of your words, because there are ramifications. You can lift, like I said, or you can bring people down. And I try to build a bridge as much as possible. So that's what I got to say about that. Now, Denise is like, closing thoughts, please. Okay, D, don't mess around, okay? Okay, so dump the hump. And my kind of dump the hump is essentially life lessons or experiences that help us get past a week or whatever we're going through so that we can love the life we live more. But on this topic of grief, my 2 cents on it is that everybody grieves differently. So no matter what, if you are mindful of whatever the grief you're going through, it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel mad. It's okay to feel angry. But just visit it, let it visit, and then you got to let go. Because again, one of my favorite quotes is, when you hold on, you get dragged. And so as long as you don't let it, you can sit with it for a minute, but let it go. And don't let it ruin your day and this present moment, which is the most important. And if you're taking little baby steps, the best way you know how, that's all you can do. Like for me, I love to talk it out. I am a talker, but on the flip side, some days I just also get my energy from just sitting in stillness. So it's whatever you feel that day. Nothing's wrong with the way you're feeling that day. But for me, it's taking these baby steps, whether it's writing or being in silence or being with friends, taking those baby steps, because what happens when you take any sort of steps, you move forward. And that's how you deal with grief, is first of all, accepting that fact that, okay, it's happened. My brother-in-law is not coming back. He's passed away. His 2 kids and I and my sister, we have a totally different 2.0 life now that doesn't include him. So once you get that, and you can mourn and you can feel sad, but I think about it, I get sad for a minute, and then I'm like, okay, but let me focus on the gratitude and the things I do have, because when you do focus on gratitude and have that attitude of gratitude, the fear and the sadness and all that, the grief slowly starts to wither away. They don't live in the same space.
Yeah, it is a process, and it's different for everyone. For each of us, it is completely different, and you have to be okay to just be immersed in your process.
Yes.
Some of us is very emotional. For me, I know I try to really concentrate on just what that individual brought to my life. I find it difficult sometimes, like how to reach out to someone else who's going through it, because I don't just, it's like one thing to say, yeah, you have my prayers and condolences. And when I say you have my prayers and condolences, I really am putting you on my prayer list.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't feel that that's necessarily enough. And I'm like, well, what do I do? What do you need? You never know what somebody needs. If something is placed on my mind, like I just had a friend, she just announced that her husband, her father-in-law, her husband's dad, just suddenly passed away unexpectedly a couple of days ago. So, I've been struggling with like, okay, well, how do I reach out to you? And, I've definitely, if you need something, yes, but you may need something and not be ready to say something or not be able to say something because your emotions are going every which way. So if something did come on my mind that I know that she likes and may appreciate, that I'm just going to do. I'm not asking if she needs it or what. I'm just going to take the initiative to do it. Because it was placed on my heart spiritually. So sometimes you just have to be in that space. And just, again, it's just about recognizing that everyone has a process and a method. Just don't get stuck in the depths of your grief and your pain. You got to, you just don't want to get stuck there. And that's a difficult process, because you might be harboring feelings of guilt or resentment or whatever it is that you're harboring. But you got to make sure that you're not just being stuck there, because that person wouldn't want you to be
the person that passed away wouldn't want you to be stuck either.
They wouldn't want you to be stuck there. So it's grieve through the process, however you do it. And it's okay, but just make sure that you're moving forward, and make sure you're doing things in your life going forward that honor the legacy of the person.
Because their legacy lives forever.
Right.
You make a really good point there, because when I was going through all my grief, I don't know if you felt this way too, or what you guys at home feel, but I just remember, like, you don't know what you need or want yet. And what's very helpful is if I was just, I know Kim, a friend, is watching, and when her brother passed away suddenly last year, left behind 2 young children and his wife, I just reached out to her. I said, I'm sending you love and condolences and prayers, because I can't say I know how you feel, even though I've experienced a lot of deaths, because every experience is different. Every grief is different. Every connection is different. And the reason why you grieve, it's a beautiful thing, because when you grieve, that means you care about you care for the person and the connections that you did have and that you do still have. But I just reached out and said, look, if there's anything, if there's anything that you do that comes up eventually that you need, let me know. Like, I know that she had to travel to Florida, and she lives here in San Francisco to be with the family. I'm like, I can, water your plants, get your mail, whatever you need there as it comes up. However, at the time I wasn't close enough with her to say, hey, I know where your key's at. Don't worry, I will water your plants, or, take care of your business.
Right.
But sometimes, like you said, if you love to cook and you want to bring food and say, I'm leaving at the doorstep, do that. I mean, people just don't really know what they really need at that moment. But just also knowing that somebody is there. I said, I say this over and over again. I said it last week's show, and I'll say it again, that, you know, one of the best things that somebody could say when you're going through grief is what my good friend, childhood friend Keely told me when my dad had passed away. She was just like, you know, I'm here you know, call me if you feel alone in the middle of the night. I'll just sit on the phone with you and won't say anything if you don't want to talk. I'll go over there and lay down with you, whatever you need there. And just knowing that people are sending love, there's an energy to that. So I know that there's something beautiful.
Right. No, definitely so. Definitely so. Yeah, I completely agree. So you definitely just have to, and whether you're grieving a person, a job, or whatever it is that you need to, that you're having trouble letting go. You know, there's different levels of grief. There's a different process. You just have, again, be in that process, trust that process, but just don't get stuck in that place where you can't move forward. If you're doing, if you make a goal of living, when it's a person, especially if you make a goal of living to honor that person or to honor their legacy, you'll get through it. You will absolutely get through it.
Yeah. And that's what I told that woman who looked at me and was like, will I ever feel joy again? And I promise you this much, is that if you allow yourself to go through those feelings and do things that bring you joy, again, you will start feeling that the cold will dissipate, because literally your soul feels cold, inside it feels cold. And I told her, I said, I promise you, you will feel the warmth. And I think there's a beautiful thing that happens when you feel that warmth and you actually take action on it, because that's where you know, the purpose of whatever happened, I feel like, is served. Because you and I always say, I hate it when people say everything happens for a reason, you know, because that's hard pill for me to swallow, because there's some bad things that happen.
But it does,
right?
But yes,
but yeah, it does. It doesn't just happen for a reason. I just feel like it's here to teach us something. That's just easier for me to swallow. Everything is here to teach us something. And so one thing I've learned just going through all this grief is that, you know, in time, I promise it does get better, and you have to personally go through what you need to go through and grieve the way you know how, and not let it kind of suck you in. And people at home, if you know, have any sort of things that have worked for you, we're crowdsourcing our wisdom today. So please, and every day. So please
let us know. So
we're not the professionals in this one. But moving on to our third segment, which really continues this conversation. Move to the next segment, D says. Segment 3, favorite. Talk to us. Hold up, I gotta show you this. Little thought bubble. Okay, so segment 3 is where you talk to us live, or we answer questions through your DMs or whatever you post on our Facebook. And Jack from Atlanta says, how do I take steps? And I know through the message that Jack shared that he hates his job, and he says, how do I take steps to move forward without being impatient and tolerate the day-to-day until the universe tells me what's next? Ooh, that's a good one.
That's hard, because when you're in that space, you know, all you want to do is exit. You want to be out of it as soon as possible.
Like, peace out, mother.
You're gonna have to find some level of patience.
We've all been there,
right? You're gonna have to find some level of patience. But for me, I find that it's just planting the mental seed and then kind of focusing on, because every situation that I've left, like when it comes to a job or anything like that, every time I've left something, I've always planted that mental seed. Like, okay, I've got to be out of here. I've got to see myself in the next chapter. Even if I don't know what that looks like, I know it's not here.
Yeah.
And then you just keep working a little bit to move yourself in that direction.
Yeah.
And those opportunities will present themselves, but you gotta, it's a constant practice. You've got to do it, you know, several times a day probably, but mentally you've got to just get yourself in that space where, you know, you have to be open to receive and to know that you're worthy and to know that this is changing. This is changing. This is changing.
Absolutely.
This is changing.
Yes.
And then eventually it will change.
And I was messaging Jack back, and I said, you know what? The fact that you told the universe and you told someone, me, and you're telling people, that means that intention has been set. Like you like to say, I'll take your words, the seed has been planted. And you got to water it with action and sunshine, right? And the energy around that. So now that he's told me that, I'm like, oh, I know some other people that may be able to connect him perhaps, or you might know somebody, or somebody else might know somebody. But I think that for me, I'm all about being in the flow, and without sounding too woo-woo, I believe that, of course, I'm very pragmatic. I believe that, yes, you know, you cannot control where you're going next, what job you're going to get, but what you can control is how good you do at the craft you're doing today. And you can control sending out your resume. Send one resume out a day, send one resume out a week, like I said earlier, with grieving the process of losing a loved one. the same thing with losing a job or like wanting to release yourself of this job or this title that you've been attached to, which is another subset of grief, right? But
Right.
you can control how many resumes you send out, or how many phone calls you make, or how whatever your job search is. Jennifer says,
Yeah, I like.
Green, do you want?
I was going to say, I was going to read Jennifer's
Okay,
comment.
good.
I like that. I concentrate on what is good about the present while moving forward.
Yes.
That's key. While moving forward, still
Yes.
concentrating on what's good about the present. And sometimes you have to stretch for that.
Yeah.
And she goes on to say, you can't receive while focusing on the negative.
Ooh.
Now, that's a word.
Hey,
that's a tweet. You can't receive while focusing on the negative.
You did not go Oprah.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Tweet. That's for
because
show.
You can't.
Yeah, that is for show. And I always say attitude of gratitude. If you are all stanky and like, hateful and like talking mess about your boss and all this stuff, you know what? You're just telling the universe that you're, that you just are not ready to
bring me more stank. Right.
Yeah, right. And also listen, if you are all stanky about it and you're telling me, or I have a friend with me that could hook you up with a job or could hire you, they're going to see that, and they're going to understand that vibration is not something that, whether they realize it's a vibration or not, it's not something that they want to be a part of. So I really love that, Jennifer. I believe that in anything, no matter what in life, even if you feel like you ain't got a thing to be grateful for, if you got your breath, that is one thing to be grateful for. Focus on the first and then the 15th of nothing else. Amen to that.
That sounds like the mantra that I used to have growing up in the hood in Oakland. That was the day the welfare checks came out. But never mind, I digress.
No, you didn't. I know.
Focus on the first.
The first of the month. Okay, so let's get on.
But I like that, just so you have something. But it is actual. All jokes aside, it is an actual. That's a good idea because it's something actual, tangibly that you can focus on, even if it is that might seem small at first, just those 2 days. Or whatever, but then as you make that a practice, it'll grow, and those 2 days that you focus on will become 3, then 4, and before you know it, you've shifted.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Jennifer,
okay.
thanks for getting all these gems tonight.
I know Dee's like, hey, 4 more minutes, so let's get to the other 2 questions on our Facebook wall. Barre from Berkeley asked, hey, YOLO with ToLo, I've been to 5 funerals since the beginning of the year. Aside from the usual flowers and cards and food, what is the best way to support a loved one that is grieving? And I sort of answered that question earlier, is you and I said to go ahead and take action. If you know that, you want to bring food, great, bring food. But some people now don't like food, or they're on a diet or whatever. They might not feel like eating. So, I think that it's important that I think the people around them, like when my sister was grieving with her husband's loss, we knew that the house we were staying at, the driveway was really slippery. So we just put that out on Facebook, told people, and there's somebody that was a contractor that went out and sandblasted outside so nobody would slip and fall. But I think everybody, and this is the Forbes quote that they quoted in the story they wrote of mine, is I believe everybody has a unique power, and it's our responsibility to use that power to the fullest capacity in the service of others. And same thing when somebody passes away. If it's just a kind card because it comes from your heart and you're a speaker, that's beautiful and amazing. If you're a great cook. And I think every situation is different. So I think for me, though, the whole situation of when I lost family members, and my friend I told you guys earlier, Keely, said, I'm here, you're not alone. And I think that's important. And that's why we do this show, is to let you know that you're not alone, and there is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. And understand that someone else's process is going to be different from your process of grieving, but just let them know, and not necessarily, you don't have to be like knocking on their door. I'm here if you need something, because that doesn't necessarily, but they do need to know that you're there.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so, like I said, for me, if my spirit tells me to just do something, I don't ask them, do you need this? I'll just go ahead and do whatever my spirit is
that's great. Yeah.
to do for them. But just to let them know that you're in that space where, like you said, like your friend said, if you want to call me in the middle of the night, I'm here.
Yeah.
So just if they know they've got someone to reach out to, just trust and let them live through their process and respect their process.
Dee says here, meaningful to share stories of bereavement and loss. Yeah, and I think that so many people, like I spoke with a friend today, she said she had three miscarriages. And a lot of people don't
Wow.
talk about miscarriages, or people don't talk about certain things. But I believe that and I do storytelling workshops and I do motivational speaking. So I say this every single time, is that when you have the courage to share your story and, like you said, stand in your light, then other people don't feel alone and they feel the light. They don't feel the darkness anymore. I got a private DM from Bobby here in San Francisco, which kind of dovetails into the next level of really grief. Is, hi, Tuan and Lanelle. Grief is a good subject to cover. Many people have little patience with people who are grieving if it takes too long in their estimation. Everyone struggles with grief. When should someone seek professional help with grief?
Whoa, that's
Ooh,
good too. I'm not an
deep.
expert on that level of it, but if you're stuck or you're feeling stuck or you can't, you're practicing these principles and you're not moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
then you probably should seek some help. Or if you can't get out of the bed,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
if that's okay, maybe the first couple of days or maybe after the funeral, but if it's 2 or 3 months down the line, you still can't get out of the bed, you might want to seek some
And like I
professional
said,
help. That's going to be an individual thing.
yeah, and like you said too, it's like we're not mental health professionals in this. However, I 100% agree with you. If you can't do your day to day, and it's been a long period of time, a month for some people, 2 months or 3 months, or whatever, right? Then maybe it's time to seek somebody that can help, professionally, like, help you move to that next level. But, it's really important to know that you are not alone in this journey. And that there is hope. And I think that's our main message. One last message here from Kevin. He says, also action without expectation. Even if the person grieving doesn't show you appreciation at the time, don't take it personally, but continue to love them. Ooh, that is really, really
That
good.
is very good.
Yeah. Oh,
and support groups help.
Yeah.
Like Jennifer said, support
Yeah.
group. And Tracy said that last week. She's
Yeah.
had the widow group. So yeah, definitely. There,
No shame.
like we were saying, you're not alone, but there are support
Ain't no
groups out
shame in
there,
that,
so.
for sure.
None.
But we love talking to you guys. Dee says we're done with time here, but you
Steve was like, "How y'all were done 2 minutes ago. Wrap this up."
Wrap. But just know that you aren't alone. We love you. Please like our page to get updates. We go live every Wednesday night, depending on Linnell's flight schedule. We try to go at 7 o'clock Pacific time or 10 o'clock Eastern time. And please do share DM us your questions or your challenges. Share your wisdom. We're crowdsourcing it all here. Share on our Facebook page, because that's how we come up with the theme for the next show. So remember, YOLO with ToLo. You only live once with Tuan and Lanelle.
You only live once. And yay, we didn't have time to get to digital detox.
Digital detox next week. Next week. All right. See you guys later. Love you guys.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye.
Have a good one.
All right.